Hello and welcome everybody. This is the Vince Nerone podcast. I'm here today with licensed professional counselor Rachel Loomis, who is also my newly fiance. And today I just wanted to get on here and we're going to talk about, therapy as well as just, Rachel's experience with therapy. And we're going to kind of just dive into all sorts of things, along these different angles. So, Rachel, I know you've kind of always wanted to become a therapist for as long as I've known you, but is there like an origin point or something that kind of made you want to become a therapist? Is this something that you've always wanted to be, or what would you say about that?
I don't think I've always known that I've wanted to be a therapist, but I think when I really knew that I wanted to be in the mental health space was probably honestly around the time that I met you. When I was around 18, I was struggling with a lot of mental health issues, my own mental health issues, and I think also in combination with that, when I had lost someone that was really close to me due to addiction and, his own mental health, it kind of drove me even more to this space.
And so you kind of knew you wanted to be a therapist before this, and then it like kind of had like some inklings of that kind of a career route, and then I don't know if you want to get this personal, but what exactly might have happened, for people who don't know, or is that something that maybe you don't really want to get into too much?
Yeah, I mean, I think his death was kind of like the big catalyst for, wanting. It was kind of like a reassurance almost for me. Like, I think, when I was 18, 17, I struggled with a lot of anxiety, and around then I didn't feel like mental health was really talked about as much, and I think there was this stigma too around it, and the stigma around it really just, for me, felt isolating. Like, because not many people talked about it, I had to then carry it by myself, and that was really hard. Mm. And I think after I had lost, I call him my stepdad, but he was my mom's boyfriend for many years, and he struggled a lot with his mental health and towards the end, unfortunately, addiction. And I think after he passed, I felt something in me that was like, it was like almost like a sign, like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to get out there and I need to help people navigate some of the same things that I've experienced, and so that they don't feel as alone as I did. I don't want to get too caught up on, as much as there was a stigma, I feel like my point was really about mental health itself wasn't really talked about as much as it is now.
Right.
And many people, I felt, around my age at the time, weren't going to seek out help as much as today, which has been great to see in my field, but I think at the time it was really hard because so many people didn't talk about mental health. I felt personally that I had to navigate all of my mental health challenges that I was dealing with at the time by myself, because my friends weren't going to therapy. We weren't talking about therapy. We weren't talking about opening up about our issues. It was just, you wake up, you go to school, you go to work, you do your job, you do your homework, you come home, you sleep. Like, no one really discussed much outside of that.
So you didn't think to go see a therapist at the time. You just...
No.
Because that just wasn't in the immediate environment at the time, and you think that it's come a long way with just people talking about I go see a therapist now. Okay, so what was it that you did instead of therapy that you might have learned that you thought, okay, this is what this situation has helped me figure out so that I could bring into therapy later? Do you understand?
Well, I think without therapy at the time, I relied mostly on writing. I wrote a lot. Every day I would come home, I'd sit in my journal, and I'd listen to music, and I would just write about how I felt. that was my outlet. Now, a lot of times when I work with people, you know, one of the things I do suggest is writing, because it is such a great way to get those thoughts out. But I think at the time for me, I was just writing because it was fun, but I didn't realize how powerful that was. And like, you know, when you're 15, 16 years old, you're writing, you don't think about like how beneficial that is going to be for your mental health. You're just writing to write.
Were the poems or the writings and stuff like that, was that like regarding the situation, or was it kind of just everything, or was it starting off like, yeah, it was a lot about, you know, obviously with whatever happened to your stepdad, or was it like, you know, just all sorts of things, how you felt it had become more of like a routine of something that was like, you know, whatever you were feeling in those days?
Yeah, I started writing before I lost Chris. So, I mean, I really got into writing, honestly, after my first breakup, like when I was in middle school and I had like my first real heartbreak. And I just would write. I would write about it. I would write about how I felt. I would write my poems. And then eventually, you know, after I'd lost Chris and other things in life were starting to kind of spiral, you know, going to college and the stress of that, and, you know, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I think over time, writing, I still did, but I also would reach out for help. I would talk to my friends more. I'd talk to my mom more. And like as each year went by, I learned to open up to people. And I didn't start my own therapy until I was probably 21, is when I first sought out like a therapist, and been working with the same one ever since. And you know, it's been super beneficial for me.
Yeah, you said that there was a stigma, you didn't have a therapist. It was not that it was really a stigma, but maybe it just wasn't so mainstream in the forefront of like, okay, I'm struggling with something, I should go talk to somebody. So knowing what you know now as a therapist, if you could have worked with yourself then, like what would you have told your younger self at that time, say, of like when things really got kind of bad?
I think for the anxiety part, I would really just tell myself anxiety isn't something to fear as much as I did. You know, I think a lot of the times that's why I would get so caught up, is because I would have this pit, or I'd have this heaviness feeling on my chest that I wouldn't be able to explain, and that would freak me out more. And
well, wait, when you say anxiety though, so was your anxiety something that came from the situation with Chris, or was it something that was different from that, or what was that about?
I don't know if Chris's passing really caused anxiety. I think, like, when I look at what I struggled with, I look at, like, my anxiety as a separate part to Chris's death. The grief didn't bring anxiety. It brought a lot of anger. It brought a lot of resentment. It brought a lot of sadness. Whereas the anxiety was more so around stress and college and school and what I wanted to do with my life, and constant worrying about if I'm ever going to be good enough, you know, after school. So I think the two challenges or two events differ from each other in that.
When you want to help somebody now, I know you said that obviously what happened with Chris like kind of solidified your decision, like, yeah, this is what I want to work for. I want to help people who might have gone through a similar maybe traumatic event or this a grief. So you want to work with maybe people who have trauma and grief, but then also there's this anxiety about life and that kind of, you know, coming of age to, you know, kind of maybe go off on your own. What are we going to do with life?
And addiction too. I think after Chris's death, I knew I wanted to be in the mental health space, but I think after he had passed, I really dove into addiction and substance use.
Because you didn't want, you want to help people who are struggling with addiction? Or you want to help people who have family members?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
When you're working with people who are doing this already, not to get like obviously in depth with specifics with your clients and stuff like that, but you're working with people who have addictions.
Yeah.
And both people who are addicted and also people who have family members who are addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you feel a lot of the same things, the intentions that you were going through when you work with these people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's honestly one of the hardest parts about being a therapist is, you know, they call it countertransference and transference are the technical terms, but what those words mean is when I'm sitting in session with somebody and I'm talking to them about their addiction struggles, or I'm talking to them about a family member who's you know, dealing with a lot of substance use in their life, you know, I start to feel that. I start to feel those same emotions that I had during that time. And then I have to be able to then, you know, sit in this space with someone, put whatever is coming up for me kind of like on the back burner so that I can allow myself to remain as present as possible, but still also bringing in those parts and pieces of what I felt. Because I'm human, right? Every therapist has gone through things that are going to come up in a session with somebody. And I think, honestly, that's one of the hardest things that I've had to kind of navigate.
What's interesting with that comes to my mind is like for people like, yeah, I've also, you know, obviously struggled with addictions, as you know, but, you know, you almost kind of want to like hide those things maybe because you feel like people are going to see you as like not capable of helping them because you have your own problems. But actually, I think it's the opposite. Like knowing that like my therapist went through something that I'm currently going through. It's like, okay, this guy gets it. This girl gets it. You know, but I think as the person who has it, you think, is my client going to be like, at least how I would feel if I was working with somebody is like, is my client going to think that I'm less capable of helping them because I have my own issues? How can this person help me? He's struggling with his own anxiety or had in the past. I don't know. I think that might have came to my mind, you know, when I think about if I ever want to like give people advice and stuff like that. But, you know, it's interesting too, because I can also see the other side of like, well, how is someone going to help me if they're not even close enough to the issue. They never experienced anxiety before.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome, you know, when I first started, because I'm like, how could I deal with someone else's mental health problems when I'm going through all this shit on my own? It was like, but then it's interesting because, you know, as I've been in this field and I've practiced more, I've realized like, at the end of the day, I'm human. The person that is sitting across from me on my couch is a human too. And I think taking away that extra added pressure of like how I'm supposed to show up as a therapist really helped me dive into my work even more.
Right. Yeah, and I think going back real quick before we move on to, you know, I don't want to get too caught up on this first segment or you know question that I had, but when I was going to my therapist, I think the stigma is like if you have a therapist that you must be going through something that like you can't handle on your own and this and that. But whenever I would go see my therapist, it was really just talking about like normal life. And I think like when normal life is just, it can be a lot just in general. And like I guess having somebody that's detached from the emotions, like, you know, I have parents I could talk to, I have friends I could talk to, but they also know me. There's emotions tied to that. And I think that was what was helpful for me was like my therapist was just able to give good advice and not be in it with me or like attached to me or a friend of mine. And so that was always really helpful. And it almost kind of felt like maybe like a vent session though, which I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I guess it could be, but at the same time, eventually I think you hopefully want to show up and stop venting and more like getting
reflecting and
well, not even. I want like solutions, like to stop having to come to my therapist, which I eventually did, and it was fine. But do you find that people are looking to just come and vent, or do you find that people are genuinely hoping for a solution or an answer from you?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think when you first start therapy, you know, for me, it's a lot of venting, and in the venting comes rapport building. Mm-hmm. And so it's right in the beginning when I really establish a trusting relationship with somebody and a connection. And oftentimes during my first initial session with somebody, I'll ask them like, what are you hoping to get out of therapy? What are you hoping for it to look like? If you've been to therapy, what has worked well for you in the past, what hasn't, so that we can work together to kind of build our sessions that is going to be the most beneficial for them.
Do you feel pressure to solve the problem or like make them feel like you're getting somewhere, or you kind of just with experience maybe let that go? Or
yeah, definitely when I first started, I'm like, as you know, oftentimes therapists will in their mind, you know, come up with all these solutions of things that we should say to clients, like, oh, you should do this, you should do this, I see it so perfectly in this and this, and you should definitely do that. And it's hard not to do that, but as somebody who is truly an outsider in someone's life, it's not on me to place any type of judgment or direction. It's solely on the client.
yeah, and I think in my experience, whether it's just like from people in my life or seeing it or even my own life, it's like you can give people solutions, but they're also not going to react in the way you expect. They're not just going to take your advice perfectly. They're not going to like stick to the routine. You might say, I have this perfect plan for you. And a lot of times it's not that your plan wasn't right. It's just like they don't stick to the plan, or I don't stick to my own plan, for example. Like I feel like that's something that comes up in my life all the time. But before we go any further, this actually kind of bleeds into the next point, which is there like a common theme that people are struggling with in today's day and age that you see come up a lot? Like people who are coming to see you in therapy, do you see a common thread? Maybe it's like distractions, and just everything going on with the new modern age of technology and maybe even AI, or who knows what it is. Is there like a through line, or it's kind of like all over the place?
Honestly, I've been shocked because I haven't had many people come to me about AI. And, you know, I think
Yeah.
as I've seen, you know, all these different platforms rise, I thought that was going to be huge for our field. I thought people were going to be coming to us all the time trying to navigate AI. But no, I think it's like it's a mixed bag. It really is. I mean, you know, I have people who come to me for navigating life after getting let go from a job. I have people navigating life post high school or in college, or, you know, difficulties navigating interpersonal relationships or romantic relationships. And I think there isn't really like a common thing that I see. Like it really just, it depends on the person and their story.
Do you feel like people find it helpful? I know, I mean, obviously I imagine they do, but like, do you notice that like it feels like really helpful for these people? Are they coming back and saying like, I'm really glad that we're doing this, that I decided to start therapy?
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about my job is, you know, seeing the people come back week after week and seeing their growth. And, you know, it's really, really special to see. You know, not everybody will come to me and say, oh, therapy has changed my life. But, you know, there are some that have said, you know, after our first session, I felt such a huge weight off my shoulder. And this is someone who's never been to therapy before.
Right.
And so that's always a really cool feeling to have.
Yeah, that does sound really, really rewarding for you. I'm sure like just being able to have like a huge impact on someone's life has got to be like just, yeah, again, super rewarding. I think, you know, too, like at least, I mean, I'm going to be becoming 30 soon, and one, you know, common theme I see across maybe my age group, but even like actually even in college and just maybe the 20s to 30s, and I mean it could be 40s too, but people may be feeling like directionless or lost. Do you think that there's a reason for people feeling, you know, lost or looking for clarity or finding their purpose? Meaning, I feel like these things come up a lot. Maybe like the nihilistic person who feels like, you know, what's it all worth anyway? It doesn't matter how hard I try. It's never going to be this, you know, great thing. And maybe you get stuck in your 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Like, do you feel like people are lost for specific reasons? Anything come to mind there?
Specific reason, I'm not sure, but what I do see is I work with a lot of women, And I do see a lot of women in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s feeling lost because, I think society puts this pressure or timeline on people. If you don't have kids by the time you're 30, if you don't have your career by the time you're 30, then, you're doing it wrong. And it's sad, but it's true. And I think how I navigate that with somebody is really like reflecting on outside of the outside noise, like what is your why? Mm-hmm. What drives you to be passionate, to feel passionate about your life? Like that's one of my biggest questions I ask is like, what is your why?
Yeah, well, you also brought up pressure to have kids or settle down, have that family. I think men and women have different worries in that way. When I ever felt lost, it was very like whether career driven or hoping to accomplish these goals that like you're striving towards all the time. And so yeah, I think men and women are different in that way. What do you think actually helps people maybe change? If they need to change to find this, direction, or even just, what things are you kind of giving people to help them find that direction, not feel so lost, and find the why?
Well, I think I would first ask or be curious about, do you feel lost because someone else is saying that you're lost, like society? Mm-hmm. Or do you truly feel lost in your own life? Because I think there's such a difference there. You could feel lost because your friends or your family or anybody around you is putting this extra layer of pressure on you to perform or get things done by a certain age or a certain way. That's different from, I think, feeling truly lost in yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think, the two can go hand in hand, and I think each can affect each other, but I think that's what I would first be curious most about is, why do you feel lost? Is it something that you're telling yourself, or is it something that somebody else is?
Yeah, this reminds me, so a lot of things I've been diving into lately, which, obviously I've discussed with you, is like alignment and how the alignment of things are different for everybody. And what alignment really just is like where your heart and your true personality and who you are is aligning with. And I think that can fall off the path as we're growing up from society pressure, parent pressure, just life in general. You start to lose, who you are and what your mission is, your goals are to please the rest of everybody else around you. Like if your parents wanted you to be a doctor growing up or this and that, but maybe you wanted to be, who knows what it is, insert career here. And I think it's really important to step away from the noise in order to find that first before you get the direction. So, it's almost like you're on a boat and you could decide which direction to go in, and that would be like the work. But if you don't settle on what is my alignment, you're going to start going into direction and just getting to an island that is not the island you wanted to end up at. Mm-hmm. And I think with the noise in today's day and age, the noise being phones, it could be just any sort of these distractions, just your attention span's so low because there's always things coming at you, and you never have time to just sit there and like sit with your thoughts and like try and figure it out. There's always something taking place and taking up the space. And so I think first things first, in my opinion, and you could tell me as a therapist if you agree, is to like clear the noise. And substance abuse, I think, is another one for me, like getting away from weed, alcohol, nicotine. If those things are really muddying the water for you, because to me it's like, look at weed, it's like you're simulating maybe dopamine and almost like this like fuzzy immersion. Like a lot of times if you're playing a video game, that weed makes you more immersed, and it's like simulating that passion that you would have maybe had pursuing this goal. And that alcohol is like this happy feeling and that joy that you might have gotten pursuing this goal. And that nicotine is that stimulant that keeps you focused, that you might have developed to move towards that goal. And I think the noise is what's blocking us from getting to that long-term feeling of achievement and like joy and meaning and purpose, and instead we're substituting it with quick hits through our phone, quick hits through substances, and so on and so forth. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, what about that? Do you agree with?
I think you're right. Like, I do see a lot of people leaning on, you know, their vices, right? Whether that means alcohol or their phone, social media, TikTok. And I think you're right. I think if we try to limit as much noise as we can, then we're left to really listen to ourselves. And I think one of the ways that can help with that is really starting to try to implement meditation, writing, just something that is you and yourself. That's it.
What do you think those things are? I have an idea of what those things build or boost. What do you think like something like writing or meditating is doing for you? What do you think that, how come those things do you think allow you to kind of clear the noise enough to find your why maybe?
Well, I think meditating, you're focusing solely on your breath. And every time you notice a thought come in, you're noticing it, but then you're letting it allow on its own in its own time. And I think that really helps with the quick fix of like scrolling on your phone, like trying to get those instant dopamine rushes, because through meditation, you learn to not only slow things down, but tune things out.
Mm-hmm. And let things go. Yeah, it's like you can kind of focus on your breath and let these thoughts kind of go, and it kind of trains you. So like when later moments come up and you feel so like, oh, I'm so obsessing over this thing, I'm ruminating, I can like let that thing go easier. But I completely agree with that. Another thing I was thinking is I think it boosts awareness, especially things like like writing. I think awareness is the key first, because like a lot of those things I'm talking about, noise, you know, these distractions in today's day and age, like, do you think that your clients and people are even aware of this, or do you think they're almost kind of like, you know, not taking away from these people, but like autopiloting through life, like not even really realizing these things of awareness, and comfort, and like realizing that their phone is making them so, maybe impatient and lack of attention. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do have the insight. They know exactly what's going on, but where they get caught up is their lives are too busy. You know, they're not dedicating the time to put into breath work or writing, you know, between a family or a job or a marriage or friends or social life. You know, they're not dedicating that specific time to really sit with themselves. But I do think people absolutely have more insight and awareness than they like lead on.
Yeah, you'd almost think that people might have more insight and awareness today than ever, just because of all the information on YouTube, and almost might be information overload, because you know you could find all sorts of different people saying all sorts of different.
I have this diagnosis. I have this.
Yeah, or solutions to the problem, like, and sometimes like it's not a one size fits all, and maybe this person's solution will help you if you follow, but this person's solution won't. But how do you differentiate? Because the talking head on YouTube is just as convincing as this one is. And so you almost have like information overload of like, which choice do I land on? What does actually work for me?
And then you freeze.
But
Functional freeze. There's so much shit going on that you just lock up and don't do anything.
Yeah, and I think you said too, like, everyone's caught up in their life, everyone's caught up with their marriage or their friends and this and that. But I think like something that's just helped me recently is just kind of pausing my life and getting my things in order. You know, obviously just recently I cleaned a lot of our closets. I've been trying to keep up with laundry, actually. It got a little behind this last week, but that's something I want to focus on tomorrow. I just cleaned my car. Like, and maybe these things in the past I put off because I never wanted to pause, because these goals and ambitions in my life I thought were super, super important. Those take precedent. But as soon as you can clear the noise around those big goals and ambitions, make room with the limited bandwidth that we all have as people, it allows us to pursue these goals and pursue these ambitions with a clearer plate and a clearer foundation. So I think it's really important that people pause first, take care of their immediate environment. Don't be so focused on these big goals and my true why and moving towards that yet. That's a great thing. Trust me, I know I love those things too, but I think it's really important to get your life in order first, not to be cliche with all these YouTube guys, but yeah, make your bed and clean your rooms. Don't just have shit everywhere, because it's going to be taking away every time you walk into your house, and it's going to be, making things just more stuff to think about instead of
cluttered.
Yeah, instead of being able to focus like you want to be.
Agreed.
So actually, this actually perfectly leads into the next point. Obviously, I have so much going on all the time, and I am a very ambitious person, and of course, you have your job.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah, okay, we're getting there, but yeah, which I appreciate, and of course, your job is very heavy, as I know, and so, growing together in our relationship, for example, what do you think are some of the things that we do good or that we need to keep in mind when we're kind of trying to be there for each other, but also focus on our own things? You know what I'm saying? Like growing in this relationship together. What do you think maybe for other couples or other people who have a lot, together, by also like wanting to be able to focus on my thing and you wanting to be focused on your thing, but also being able to help each other and take a pause from our own things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for me, in the beginning of our relationship, not even in the beginning, because I would say right around the time when the band started, is, when things really started to pick up for you. And it was like one of the first times that I was like, okay, he's not only working a full-time job, but he's also has this band now, and he's got practice once or twice a week, and he's got downtime he needs to work on his songs and his music, and and then you started jiu-jitsu, so that was another thing. And I think at first, I'm gonna be honest, it was hard for me to navigate that, because I think where I went wrong is I didn't see that.
You maybe felt like I didn't have enough time for you?
Yeah, and I think maybe I relied too much on you to help me get through some of the stuff that I was going through. And I think I've learned to utilize more of my outlets, whether that means calling up my mom. I mean, I talk to my mom like every single day, but, really opening up to her about what I'm feeling, or writing in my notes just real quick about, what happened in the day, or utilizing people like Amy, my supervisor, or my friends, and using, or movement even, or just using more of my own outlets so that I don't get into that, oh, well, he's got so much going on, he doesn't have time for me kind of headspace, where I did for a while. I would say that.
Yeah, and I think I could feel the tension of that, throughout different times and stuff like that. And I both felt like, well, first of all, I recognize your growth in that area a lot. Like, I could tell that you have given me a ton of space. Like, to be with someone like me, it's really hard to be hoping that I'm going to just be able to dedicate as much time as maybe other women might need. And I felt like you really grew to allow that space for me. And I also, with that tension, wanted to try better to be there for you more too, because it is important in a relationship to be there for you. And of course, with how heavy your job is, I wanted to be able to at least take some time, ask you how your day is, try and talk to you about, obviously we don't get specifics about your clients and stuff like that, but at least just talk like, was there anything heavy today? And like, how are you feeling about that? And just trying to be more present with you in those cases too, because obviously I know, being together, we need to be able to support each other like you support me. So I think we've both grown a lot in that way of just trying to find balance in that area.
Yeah, I would say so too. And I also would say timing matters. And that's something else that I really learned is...
We're trying to learn.
You know, it's funny because whenever I talk about this, I get such, like, vivid memories of, you know, being a teenager and not being able to drive yet. So I had to rely on my mom to take me from, like, my friend's house or going out. And, you know, my mom was a teacher, so she'd come home after working and, you know, I had already been home from school. And, like, the second she'd walk through the door, you know, I'd want to be like, Mom, can you take me here? Can you take me there? And she would get so mad at me and, like, all patience out the window when I would first come to her right when she's coming home. And, every time I think about it, it makes me laugh because I think about that. But yeah, timing is important. Like if you, on show days specifically, when you would have a show day, and let's say I woke up like not having the best day, you know, I had to remind myself, like, he is already so stressed. Like his brain today is going a million miles an hour and it's not going to be productive if I bring my stuff onto him during this moment. Like, so I've learned to really be patient and say to myself, okay, now is not the best time to bring up, you know, how anxious or stressed I am. Like today is for Vince. Like I'll wait for a better time and a better place.
Yeah. And I can recognize that that's gotta be, you know, kind of hard, but I also think, you know, as much as that might be uncomfortable, I think that helps you as a person grow.
Definitely.
You know, because we do grow through uncomfortable things. So now you can be more like dependent on yourself. Like I said, I want you to be able to rely on me to an extent, but at the same time, we need to be able to rely on ourselves. So I think it's great that you're able to grow through that. And again, that I could still acknowledge I could find the balance too. Show days are tough because there's just so much shit that I'm thinking about. Like hoping things always go wrong on show day, but I'm trying to minimize what goes wrong, and hoping my voice is good, and hoping, you know, all my outfit and everyone's on the same page and load-ins good. So it's like it's a very tough day, and then along with that is like when to bring problems. And I think all guys can relate. Well, I guess your mom too, women too, who are working all day. Like when you first walk in the door, like allowing for like 30 minutes or so of space before. Like, you know.
I get so excited when he comes home that I'm just like, I want to like go up to him and hug him and kiss him. And it's hard for me to okay, he just got home from work. Like he's gonna be smelly. Like he works in construction.
Yeah,
like
but you don't even care about that. Like I thought that would actually be a deterrent. You think that would be a deterrent for you. Like, oh yeah, I smell bad. You're like, I don't care. I'm like, oh my God. Like, fuck. Like because, like, this is the thing, like, it's not like I don't want to see you, like,
no,
it's just, like, I need time to, like, just get into the house and, like,
yeah.
like, oh, my God, like, I've been strung, especially in construction, like, you just always got tasks, and you're, like, if you're a foreman that day, or you're more leading the charge of that job, which I've been more and more kind of in charge lately, you just want to, like, everyone get away from me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, you're still working on that, but no, it's everything's good though, and I think you do a good job.
Something else that came to mind too, only because like what we're talking about, but also like a recent case that I had is, you know, you have known me, like pretty much our whole relationship. I've been in school, and so
not the last 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, we've been together almost 9. So like when I first met you, I just graduated high school. I started college right away and then grad school. So like a big part of us has been me in school. So like I really wanted to know like what that was like for you, and if like you felt like there were ever moments when my stress poured because of school, like poured into us.
Well, you know, I always run. Well, I've recently got better, I think, at not running at such a, like there's only so much bandwidth, like I mentioned before, and I kind of only leave minimal bandwidth. It's like when you have all these browsers open on your computer and your computer runs slow, or that would be like my stress, for example. Like, so you bringing more problems to me, which is unfair, by the way, and I can recognize that, but you bringing more stuff to me, it's like, oh, I can't handle it. I already got this, so much stuff. So I've tried to work on it, and I think I've done a decent job of, trying to cut that. That goes back to decluttering the house and trying to make your immediate environment good so that it can lower the bandwidth, so that even though I'm very ambitious and goal-seeking, I still have room for you and other people, friends, family, and things like this, because everybody,
Okay, but what was it like? I'm saying, like, because I know how stressed I was in school. Like,
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. It didn't really get me too bad. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of rode the waves. I mean, yes, your anxiety, we both have gone through a lot of anxiety issues in our own ways and been there for each other in those hardest times. And I think I have a lot of experience with my own anxiety, so I can relate really well to you in those moments. So, I feel like I do a good job of knowing what to say to you and to help you without feeling like it's so much stress or pressure on me, because I kind of can relate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it didn't really seem like, yeah, it was hard for me to watch you being stressed sometimes, or being, especially like anxiety attacks and stuff like that I've gone through, because I know those things suck, and the panic disorders that we both have seen in our past. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of also always recognize that, like, you can get through it. And you will get through it, because in my past, I had to go through that moment. The moment where you feel like, am I going to be like this forever? Like, is there ever going to be a time where I'm not, like, anxious every day or panic or afraid of the next panic attack? And I had that feeling. And then through, like, exposure therapy and whatnot, I was able to overcome that hurdle. So even when maybe you were stressed out or you were at your worst, I always knew that, like, we're going to get through this. You're going to get through this. And so it didn't feel so heavy to me. And at the time, and also, like, I'm just so caught up in my stuff that that's kind of like my main focus a lot of times. Not that you're not a main focus, but like, it's like, okay, Rachel, is she good? She's good. All right, this is my thing. So it was never like I was super, I don't know if that seems like selfish or whatnot, but like cognizant of your schooling that much, because I'm always so wrapped up in like these ambitions that I have and such. I don't know. Do you feel like I almost am too caught up in that and I wasn't there for you, or you feel like I was?
to be honest, when I was in school, I paid no mind to, like, is Vince here for me? Like, where's he at? What's he, like, I was so deep in school. Like, I couldn't see anything else. And I think as far as our relationship, like, that was hard for me because, I love you, and, like, but in school, to answer your question, no, like, I think you were there for me, like, in every which way possible. And I think one of the biggest moments in my life that I'm like, okay, if he's gonna stick with me through this, then, like, we can get through anything. And I know you have your own that you've dealt with, and, like, I have my own, but I think for me, like, the biggest moment where I knew is after I was hospitalized. Mm-hmm. I think, like, knowing, like, you would just show up and, like, just sit with me and talk to me every day and really be there for me was huge for me at that time. Yeah,
and you might have thought that might be something to scare somebody off, but again, like, I know where we can go, and I know how dark it can get in our own mind. And again, that goes back to, like, I knew you were going to get through it. I knew it was just like a temporary thing, especially if I was there for you, talking you through it, and you were talking through, whether it's the doctors that you were dealing with and stuff like that. I think people can feel like, oh my God, I'm stuck. Like, and then, of course, when you're feeling anxious like that, you're going to be catastrophizing. Is my boyfriend going to leave too on top of all this or something like that? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it probably felt way more like big and hard for you and, like, serious for you. But to me, I was like, okay, yeah, it's bad that Rachel's in the hospital over her anxiety, but, like, I kind of just knew that we were going to get through it. So it didn't make me feel any type of way negatively towards you. It was just, okay, Rachel's going through something right now, like I've gone through in the past when Rachel was there for me, and we'll get through it. Mm-hmm. And we did. Yeah, and we did, of course. So recently you told me that you were, both inspired and motivated by like a lot of the things I've been working towards just over the years, and especially I think right now I've really been obviously locking in. I guess I'm just curious, like what do you see in me that makes you believe in what I'm working towards? And going back to you allowing me that space, obviously it means you believe in kind of what I'm doing. What are the things you might see in me that make you believe in where I'm headed?
Oh, so you're trying to make me cry?
No, I'm not trying to make you cry.
I think specifically your discipline and your drive. Like when you set out to do something, when you come up with a vision, whether that's this podcast or music or identity work or life coaching or business strategies or leveling up in construction and that business, like whenever you have a vision, you see it through, no matter what. And out of everybody that I know, the amount of effort and work and time and thoughtfulness that you put into each step of that vision is unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And I've known you since you were 21 years old, and to see you transform to this almost 30-year-old man, like it's mind-blowing. And I just, every time that I see you have these visions and you have these ideas, and the way that you're so careful and precise about how you do it, how you do each step, to what it looks like, to who it's going to involve, to these questions for the podcast. Every time that I see you do something like this, I'm reminded of, this is the man that I want to spend the rest of my life with. This is the man that I want to guide my children. And it's been really beautiful to see how much you've grown and how dedicated you are to making yourself better each and every single day.
Thank you, babe. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I guess we'll end on, I guess if you're going to say all those nice things about me. No, but I really do, the things I love about you, and the reason why I think you're such a great therapist is because I remember, everywhere I go, even like the most random people, they'll be like, oh, you got to marry that girl, I'm telling you. She's just, there's something about her, like just your energy, how happy of a person you are, it like just brings people in. And I think that's why you have so much success with your clients and whatnot, because I don't know, it's just, it's not even easy to describe what it is, but it's just an energy that makes me so happy to be around all the time. And I think, and again, I just think that's why, everyone's so lucky as a client to be working with you as a therapist, because I mean, of course, I'm sure you give great advice, I'm not, taking that away from you, but just being in your presence and having you around all the time, just to be a support for everything I am working towards is just so important to me. And, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you as well and have you as a mom and all these things. So, yeah, I just think it's a really awesome quality that, like, people who have only met you a few times, even like, oh, yeah, like this guy at the gym, Jordan Himmel's stepdad, he's like, yeah, I met her. I think he met you one time at the truck park. He's like, yeah, she's a great one, man. She's a keeper. Like, and I heard that a million times. And that's just because it's just like the person you are. It's just so welcoming and happy, and that's the best thing about you. And well, there's a million good things, but that's the one. So that I really see. I think everyone who sees this and knows you will agree. So yeah, this has been a podcast both about, therapy and what it's like, the real human side of a therapist. And, I think we touched on why people go see therapy.
Yeah, I want to end with one thing.
What?
Don't wait until life feels too heavy to go to a therapist. Like, we are here. I'm here. Psychology Today, Rachel Loomis. Don't wait until it feels too much, I think, is my biggest takeaway from my own life, but something that I want to leave you guys with as well.
Yeah, and to add on to that point too, it doesn't have to feel, well, I think actually this is your point. Now that I think about it, actually I didn't really comprehend, but like, even if your life isn't even a problem to you or things aren't going that great, just to be able to talk through your why or talk through your plans in the future with somebody who isn't necessarily like emotionally connected to you. It's very nice to try and get your thoughts together with somebody who, is just going to listen to you and maybe give some solid advice. So yeah, it absolutely does not have to be a catastrophic thing or a big problem before you go talk to somebody. I didn't feel like I went to see my therapist for this huge, like, oh my God, my life is tanking right now. It's just like, I have a lot going on, regular everyday life. I need somebody to whether vent to or try and come up with a plan with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually your point. It wasn't really a counterpoint, and if you also have something really heavy too, even better. Like, we can all get through things. We can all use somebody to talk to. So, Rach, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, right. Thanks for doing this. And until next time, everybody.